Oh my Lord, dude. Why are Destiny fans like this? Where do they get the confidence? I live with crippling self-doubt every waking moment of my life. How are these guys so goddamn confident in their nonsensical positions that are just purely delusional? Separate the art from the artist. Dude, I love this, okay? Typical Kanye fan, by the way. Oh my God, it's awesome. This person is a Destiny fan? Of course he is.
I don't know. I'll just quote it. Like, okay. I don't know what it is.
Just tell me what I said generally. I'll tell you.
When you make a think piece, but you can't think.
Right.
Okay, how should I feel about that?
How should you? Well, I mean, it's definitely making fun of your video. Yeah. I mean, do you want to know why I would say something like that? Or I just feel like you made a lot of terrible points throughout the video. I'm having a hard time sort of seeing how you feel polarization is necessarily the issue here because...
with the Jordan Peterson book, I mean, the fact that he's not maybe not, possibly, I'm not familiar with this. Maybe he's not a reputable psychologist, okay? And that's
well, I mean, he is on the verge of having his license revoked.
Okay. But the fact is, his book helped me in a major way.
Yeah, which I mean, it could have. I'm not denying that.
And that's fine, right?
Yeah.
You may not hold this opinion. I'm not conflating you with your fans or anything, but I saw a lot of people saying like, how can you say that? There's a million other better psychologists than Jordan Peterson. Why would you say that? You can read other books, which is like, I get what you're trying to say, but can I not like acknowledge that something helped me? Can I not be honest about, I don't know, about good experiences I have with certain things? Because
honestly, you should be dishonest about that because that shit is embarrassing, son. Saying Jordan Peterson saved my life because he told me to clean my room is straight up embarrassing. I'm sure there's people in here right now who also went through their like little right-wing, alt-right arc and probably hold on to similar perspectives. But especially at this stage, like you should keep that to yourself and never try to use it as a valid argument. You know what I mean? Don't acknowledge it, man. That's embarrassing.
They come from a problematic source. Is that what we're doing?
You know, in this specific case, I don't see an issue with it per se, especially since you kind of acknowledge that Jordan Peterson does legitimately have like opinions on certain things. Yeah. Like the greater problem is that like Jordan Peterson, I mean, you could look at the man's Twitter account. You could look at his speeches. Right. You could look at where he gets booked and does talks on a regular basis. Like he's not often paid or brought in to speak to groups of people to address that topic. It's more often to address wokeness. Yeah. It's more often to address trans people. It's more often to address, you know, what he agrees is like or thinks is like, you know, covert Marxist, you know, whatever the fuck. You know, that is often what he's being booked to discuss. I mean, if anything, if he's still acknowledged as a psychologist and as a self-help guy, it's in order to bolster his legitimacy as a man who can comment on these issues. Because it's like, oh, well, maybe I should consider what this man has to say about all of these topics that he's not educated in because he's a psychologist.
Your point here being that I'm legitimizing Jordan Peterson in a way, so that also kind of
I think you personally did your due diligence in sort of acknowledging that he is a flawed guy. You know, and that he does not have like uniformly great opinions on everything. I'm not personally blaming you for anything. Okay. Let's just like get that out of the way here. All right. You know, I'm just saying, you know, we don't necessarily, though, you could acknowledge that. You could say, I read the guy's book and look, a lot of people have who fiercely disagree with him and say, you know what, like, he doesn't really talk about a lot of this stuff in his book, and this is just, you know, a separate thing in his world, and that more or less seems kind of fine. And if he just sort of stuck to this and just focused on this, he would probably be overall, like in the greater world, a sort of neutral figure.
Bro, the whole Jordan Peterson stuff is so dumb because like you can argue literally that he brings nothing new to the table in 12 rules. But beyond that, it's such a stupid way to like try to prop up Jordan Peterson. It's basically like saying like, listen, dude, like I'm not making a moral equivalence between Jordan Peterson and Hitler. Okay, obviously, just want to make sure that you understand that. But it's no different than being like Hitler made me vegetarian. Okay, really? Maybe you shouldn't mention that. You know what I mean? Just lie.
That people generally found uncontroversial. You know, like nobody's attacking the man. Like the guy didn't rise to prominence because he had like really hot psychological takes. Like he rose to prominence because he was making a big to-do about, oh, if I don't acknowledge people's pronouns on the college campus, they're going to throw me in jail and I won't do it. I won't do it. You can't make me do it. That's why he rose to
Cooking.
prominence. It's not because he's
saying.
like,
I don't understand what point you're trying to make here. Like,
well,
what
the
exactly?
point I'm trying to make here is, even if he is good at this one thing,
Okay.
you know, to an extent, we don't need to then give him his flowers, especially since, you know, at that one thing, he doesn't seem to be the greatest in the world at it. And in addition,
so wait. So I have to stop you here. I have to stop you here.
Let me finish my point. This
Okay.
is my point. I have 2 more sentences. He doesn't seem to be the greatest in the world at it. And in addition to that, it doesn't seem to, what I want to say is, define the bulk of his influence and impact on the world, is what I'm saying. When Jordan Peterson is talking, I guarantee you 90% of the time, it has little to do with what is in that book that you read. And it's more on the things that you personally acknowledge make him a human being. Like, he makes his living being a human being, not being a self-help guru or a psychologist, which, again, he's on the verge of losing his license.
All right, so that's like the 8th sentence. That's cool.
Sorry about that. I lied. I'll readily acknowledge. I'll readily acknowledge that I lied there.
I get it. I like yapping. I'm a yapper too, so I can't even blame you for that. I mean, you just said it's okay for me to say that the book helped me, but are you now saying that it's not okay for me to say that? Because
no, you can say it, but the thing is, like, there's a difference between, I think, you know, just kind of personally enjoying something and even just like kind of accepting on a personal level, like, I think this is, you know, something I can kind of separate from him, and something what I do, which is like, I criticize things, I analyze things, and then I sort of use my platform to boost and expose those things to other people. You know, like, look, I'm not making an argument here that in regards to Jordan Peterson or, you know, even Vulture.
Bro, that Carnival song is not good enough for this many people to be dick riding a Nazi, okay? Like, it's a good song, but it's not that good. You know what I mean? Are you that starving? Yeet just released a phenomenal banger of an album, and you're sitting here doing tricks on Nazi dick? Like, what the f***'s going on, man?
There's one that is like some kind of grand sin being committed just by virtue of listening to it. I went on my stream and listened to it in front of tens of thousands of people. Like, if that's the argument that I'm making, then I've just literally committed the same sin that I'm accusing other people of.
Of course.
That is not what I'm saying. I'm not like, you know, I'm of like the same opinion of you, that one individual person choosing to listen to this record or read a Jordan Peterson work is not like, you know, some kind of greater detriment, you know, to the state of the world or something like that. But I don't think we're doing ourselves any favors by ignoring the idea that actions do have consequences, and that, you know, there are potential dangers and downsides to, like, uncritically praising and platforming things that may be attached to things as dangerous as, like, let's say, Nazi ideology, you know?
So you think all those things are attached. So you think it's impossible for me basically to say, okay, I enjoy him as a psychologist, but he's a horrible human being.
Well, I think he himself makes it difficult to unattach them because he uses his psychology background to bolster his opinions on other topics.
Yes, Kokum, absolutely. Even the 12 rules, like, ultimately Jordan Peterson is a grifter, so he's out just for himself, right? But even the 12 rules and the legitimacy that he got from this bestseller, even though it's like regurgitated self-help nonsense that you can find anywhere else, the reality is, like, he uses that to bolster his credibility, and he even reinforces his, like, objectivist, weird, reactionary worldview within that framework as well. That's it. Jordan Peterson uses 12 rules to also reaffirm that very same narrative through a totally different avenue of self-help, an avenue that has, obviously, the most gullible, or rather the most desperate people, which makes it even more nefarious, because the reality of the matter is the people that are looking for self-help are oftentimes in need of help. It's a self-selecting audience. It's a self-selecting audience of people who are the most malleable in many instances. So it makes it even more nefarious, in my opinion. It's the same with people saying Tate is good because he tells people to work out. Exactly.
He himself uses that as a platform to make his opinions seem more valid than they are. Jordan Peterson himself is making the detachment difficult. It's not me doing that, it's him.
Yeah, okay, but the point I made in the video specifically, my words were, not that we should do that, but that I should be able to say that. It was, I don't know, I should be able to say that I like Jordan Peterson as a psychologist. I should be able to say that Kanye is a generational artist without getting a flurry of eye rolls and, and sighs.
I love this take. Here's why. You're whining about people understandably reacting to you in a negative way because a person cannot be compartmentalized in this way, especially when they're not like really good at what they do. It is the exact same sentiment expressed towards Andrew Tate. Oh, dude, I should be able to not get any eye rolls when I say Andrew Tate is a good, positive male role model when it comes to telling men to work out. It is not only intellectually lazy, but it's also profoundly entitled. Oh man, the peak of this is unjust actions in modern society is when people roll their eyes at me for saying I like Jordan Peterson's book. Oh man, I'm so sorry that people are rolling their eyes at you, dog. I'll make sure to get on that. I'll stop people from receiving you in a certain way. Why would anybody owe you more understanding in that circumstance when you yourself are demonstrating that you find the good in a person that is like otherwise very bad? Separate the art from the artist, sir, please. I don't understand. Oh, it's really up that people are, rolling their eyes at me when I say I love R. Kelly.
In response, that was my point. That you shouldn't receive judgment simply for enjoying something. And just to add on, wait, hold on, let me finish my point. Just to add on to that, I think even if we were to entertain the fact that it's okay to judge people for that, I don't think it's productive in any way or sense to what you're trying to do, to what I'm trying to do, to where we're trying to get politically and socially as a society. I don't think it's effective in any way. And I think that's been proven these past couple of years. I don't think, I'm just going to get to the nitty gritty of things. I don't think deplatforming is an effective way of doing things.
And I'm not of the opinion that like any number of words that I could say in any YouTube video would like end Kanye's career or deplatform him.
Okay. But that is sort of, I'm with Jordan Peterson specifically, that is sort of what you're advocating for, right? Like there's no need to legitimize his psychological background. He's a shitty person.
Wait, saying Jordan Peterson's psychological background is like kind of cheeks, or saying that Jordan Peterson wrote a book that isn't all that significant in the grand scheme of things, and it's just basic rehashed self-help nonsense, is not an advocacy for deplatforming Jordan Peterson. You are the one who is making that assessment. You're saying like, oh, you're just advocating to deplatform. It's like, what do you want? Does platforming in your mind, or just allowing someone to have a platform in your mind, simply imply that you think that their takes should go unquestioned, that you can't criticize them? This, no matter how liberal this person sees himself to be, is inherently reactionary thinking. In the mind of the reactionary, they have a sense of entitlement, okay? He might be a liberal, he might even be progressive, but right now, in this very moment, he is operating with a reactionary framework. The notion that, oh, if you criticize me, that means you want me deplatformed. You want me to die. If you criticize me, that means that you want me to be censored. You should not criticize me. That's censorship, okay? Well, you're technically quite literally asking to censor criticisms. That's what you're doing at that point.
Look, he's giving really dumb opinions, and there's going to be consequences for that. People are going to react negatively. People are going to turn off. People are going to be unhappy with the things that he's saying. There are going to be companies and corporations that you need in order to spread your message out there and put it on this platform, put it on that platform, that may not want to work with you because of the fact that it ends up being a bad look. Like, that's just consequences for the things that you say. Like, when we're talking about widespread deplatforming on every level that you possibly could, I couldn't really imagine anything other than like the government stepping in to sort of actually make that happen. And I'm not advocating for that.
Whoa, no, I don't mean that kind of deplatforming. I mean kind of.
Well, I mean, what I'm saying is like that's
with Andrew Tate, for reference. What happened with Andrew Tate? He got deplatformed off everything, and his stature grew.
What do you mean, dog? He's still fucking on Twitter. And no, his stature absolutely did not grow. Wait, okay, bro. Two things. One, deplatforming does work, okay? If it didn't, then people wouldn't be complaining about it all the time. It does. Look at Milo Yiannopoulos. Look at Andrew Tate in the areas that he did actually get deplatformed, like Romanian police. In a way, being deplatformed In a way, the Romanian police is doing a deplatforming of Andrew Tate. Alex Jones is another person who's like prominent. Tucker Carlson, he didn't technically get deplatformed, he just got fired. But like, yes, you are losing a massive avenue of relevance. Okay. So it does work in that regard. And I think there should be a pretty high standard for who gets deplatformed. There should be a pretty high standard for that. But having said all of that, the notion that like deplatforming doesn't work is silly. Or depending on who you're talking about, many of the people that you're complaining about being deplatformed don't even actually get fully deplatformed.
He became sort of a martyr for the Red Wing, Piers Morgan, whatever, like Ben Shapiro, everybody talking about him. His popularity rose more than ever because...
Dude, yeah, because he didn't get deplatformed fully. What are you talking about? That's exactly what you're... If you get deplatformed, that means like Ben Shapiro's not having you on his show. Or Piers Morgan is not having you on his show. You become like genuinely a toxic person, a toxic brand that people do not want to associate with. You can't say this person got deplatformed and then simultaneously talk about the platforming that occurred right after.
That was his main talking point for a long while. He was like, hey, I'm banned from everywhere. They don't want to hear what I'm saying.
Where was he saying this? On a platform? What is happening here?
Like the higher ups banned me from saying this because they don't want you to hear this. It gave them validity in a sense to the ignorant people on the other side. And I think the thing here is that we're on the same side here. Okay. Even though I hate using sides as in my terminology, but I think we want the same thing. But I think we just have different ways of dealing with ignorant people and tackling that issue.
I don't know if, what you're saying here holds completely true because the thing is like provably a guy like Alex Jones, for example, who due to his actions and his words has been pulled from everywhere, sued into the Stone Age and, basically like his influence dampened in every way that it possibly could. That has provably... Yeah, sure, made him a bit of a weird, obscure-ish meme folk hero among some conspiratorial psychos on the internet, but arguably he has way less influence now than he ever did. So, I mean, wouldn't that be an example of like platforming working and ultimately serving a greater good since now he's no longer able to as effectively turn his audience on people whose children have been killed and force them to move from house to house to house to house because they're being threatened because they think that they're playing into some kind of weird government plot to have their guns taken away or something.
I get what you're saying. But I completely disagree with you in the sense that I think I used this analogy. I did use this analogy in the video. How your police force tackles things. It's sort of like trying to put a Band-Aid on a decapitated head, just ignoring all the core problems and just trying to patch up these singular individuals.
No, that's not the proper analogy, dude. The proper analogy is like a hammer to a nail. When you're a hammer, everything looks like a nail. That's like the analogy that he's using in this situation is wrong because like police force use brute force to tackle every problem. The Band-Aid is not the proper analogy. A Band-Aid to a decapitated head or a gaping wound analogy. The analogy that he's using would be used if like American cops actually didn't do the right thing. American cops moved in the right direction, but did not apply enough force. That's the Band-Aid analogy. The Band-Aid means that you are trying to fix the problem, and yet you are inept, and you are not fixing the problem entirely. The analogy is more commonly known as a Band-Aid on a bullet wound and means what it sounds like. No, exactly. But regardless, it doesn't matter.
When in reality, there's still demand for this type of content. Okay, it may not be Alex Jones, but another Alex Jones is going to rise up because that demand is still there. You can't just erase that demand, no matter how many individuals you suppress or erase off the planet of this earth. People are still gonna need that. They're still gonna seek out.
Yes, that's precisely the reason why, because there's always going to be demand for it. You're trying to limit the avenues of entry. Here, he's Canadian. A question I would ask him is, do you like gun control in your country in comparison to the United States of America? Now, 99% of Canadians, unless they're fucking Albertan and like America dick riders, will say, I do agree with that. To which the second question I would ask him, okay, would be if you like Canadian gun laws, but you also simultaneously must recognize that, there's still gun violence in Canada. To which he would say, yes, there is. Okay, what do you think the gun laws do, though? The gun laws are not supposed to completely eradicate gun violence. The gun laws are there so that you greatly limit the propensity and the frequency of gun violence. That's the reason why you have gun laws. It's the same principle behind deplatforming. Deplatforming is not supposed to eradicate the need or interest that people have in reactionary content, in like Nazi commentary or whatnot. It's there so that it is not as easily accessible and it doesn't continue growing. That's a good way to analogize it to a Canadian, because a Canadian almost always is going to agree that like Canada's gun laws are better.
Out that type of content. And there'll be other figures in no time providing the same type of content, spewing the same kind of ignorant rhetoric, and nothing is going to change.
I mean, provably, nobody has risen in Alex Jones's place that is quite as unhinged at this point. In fact, I mean, I don't disagree that there's no shortage of conspiratorial content out there, but a lot of those people that make that same stuff, whether you want to say like, and I don't think they're on exactly the same level. This is not my point. You could say Russell Brand, you could say Joe Rogan, you could say Andrew Tate. Like, even they understand to an extent there is a third rail due to Alex Jones that you should not be touching, because Alex. Third rail?
I don't understand. Sorry.
Like obviously Alex Jones like went too far with what he was doing, with his rhetoric, with the defamation, with the lying, with the accusations, with the completely unfounded and unprovable lying. And what I'm saying here is like, clearly he has stood as an example and hasn't been completely replaced in the sort of damage in the sort of damage level. Well, okay. Well,
what about Nick Fuentes?
Nick Fuentes is far, like multiple leagues more obscure than Alex Jones is right now, and will, from what.
That's crazy. I wonder why the Destiny fan immediately brought up a random irrelevant Nazi. A random irrelevant Nazi that is aligned with Kanye West, or was aligned with Kanye West, that literally gained prominence and even met with Donald Trump for a little bit. I wonder why he is so aware of this guy. It's quite literally platforming. That's the point I'm trying to make. That is like, there's a reason why I don't debate that clown. Okay, there is no reason to debate him. There's certainly no reason to bring him to your house and feed him chicken and waffles and do IRL streams side by side as you laugh, because all you do in that situation is you benefit their platform. You might destroy their opinions in the marketplace of ideas, but there's a reason why every dumbass in your goddamn subreddit thinks like I'm a worse influence on American politics than Nick Fuentes Destiny, because you aligned with him and you were friendly and jovial with him until he tried to deplatform you, in which case you, of course, in the most like self-protecting interest, in the selfish egoist attitude, you demonstrated only then a little bit of resilience, a little bit of resistance towards someone like Nick Fuentes, but the attitude's still there. That's what happens. That's what happens when you have Sam Hyde on your show and talk to him about killing me. Your fans inevitably become fans of Sam Hyde because you're aligning with him. Same with Nick Fuentes. The more you sleep in bed with these Nazis, the more your community starts stinking like Nazis. Don't platform these pieces of shit. That's the point.
Just because there's a demand for a certain kind of content doesn't mean that economically and commercially we should satisfy it. Like, I'm sure I don't need to spell it out to say what kinds of disgusting, abusive, sick, and twisted and depraved types of content there are probably some psychos out there who would demand if they had the freedom and ability to demand and consume it. But just because that demand is there doesn't mean that we should try to satisfy it as a society.
You see, we should try to satisfy it. I mean, that's a very idealistic thing of way of viewing things.
No, it's not idealistic. How you portrayed it is kind of in a very...
I don't think we should do it as a society either, but we've seen it time and time again. Certain individuals...
No, okay, well, let me be a little bit bolder about it. I think we should actively discourage the creation of certain types of content.
We do that, though, and it doesn't work.
Okay, no, it does work, because there are certain types of content that are illegal that would proliferate much more greatly and in ways that you couldn't even imagine if we just allowed it to flow out with no boundaries, no limitations, nothing.
Not to get all debate lordy here, but like, this is literally what this guy is making is an argument for CP, basically. You know what I'm saying? Like, there's a demand for that kind of content. Okay, there is a demand for CP? Should we allow websites to not regulate it?
I'm not saying no boundary. That's not, my point is not no boundaries.
Hey,
my point is holding people accountable without like completely, I don't know, separating the two. Like just, I don't even know how to say this, man. It's just like, I don't like the aggression because the sides get more polarized. And all right, I'm sorry. Wait, I need to regroup. The point I wanted to make and the example I wanted to use specifically was, I don't know if you've seen recently that documentary on that Kick streamer, that like heinous, disgusting guy.
Yeah, the guy who was basically collecting pictures of teenage girls naked.
So yeah, it's horrible that he has a platform to do that. But why does Kick even exist? We have to go back. Twitch as a platform was extremely aggressive with like all their policies and enforcing, you know, politically correct rules, which is, I think it's cool, but what's happening?
Dude, why are, okay, serious. This is a serious question. Why do Destiny's fan base, like this dude who's talking to Anthony Fantano right now, why do they think they're progressive? Do they not realize that every argument they make is like damn near identical to right-wing arguments from, I don't know, 2014, 2015, 2016, when like all of his fan base, including Destiny, before he like turned into a progressive supposedly for a brief moment, were already like firmly within the alt-right? Like these guys basically got de-radicalized from the alt-right, supposedly, became Destiny fans, and then slowly but surely seeped back into that exact same framework. I don't even think they realize it though. I don't think they recognize it personally. I think they genuinely do think they're progressive. This guy is progressive. Look at him. He's on Kick, which he should be. That part is very valid, but it makes no sense to be like, I'm a progressive guy, I hate Kick, but also Kick exists because Twitch was too woke and too SJW, and that's why they created Kick.
Happened, and what sort of happened in you know, as a result of that is you get this disgusting, heinous counterculture of Kick, of Rumble. You have these platforms who will enable people who behave like that, will enable people who say problematic things. And now like when otherwise you could have controlled that type of behavior, now it's just completely loose. It's just completely out of control. So I see that.
No, wait, I'm not.
Let me finish.
I'm not following you.
I see that streamer as a direct result of that.
I really don't get what you're saying.
That's such a dumb argument. Yeah, that streamer should have stayed on Twitch and should have grown even more prominent with his pedophilia, you know, because if there was no Kick, that streamer would be streaming on Twitch or YouTube. Like what?
Are you saying that if he was allowed on Twitch, he would be able to be more easily controlled or something?
No, I'm saying because of Twitch's aggression and draconian rules when it comes to like not saying anything problematic.
But he's not just simply saying problematic things. He's collecting what is effectively CP and posting it on a Discord.
Yeah, and he wouldn't have been allowed to do that on Twitch.
But he's simultaneously saying Twitch's woke policies created Kick. What is it, bro? Do you want there to be woke policies like anti-CP policies? Is this simply a matter of disagreement between what policies you think should be allowed? That's crazy. This is such a bad argument, man. This is like the domino thing, you know, like that meme of like you drop the small domino and then the big one falls. But he's doing that for CP. What the fuck? He's like, Twitch bans unregulated online crypto gambling casinos. And then at the end of it, the largest domino is like, random streamer at Kick is collecting child pornography. How did we get here? Don't worry about it.
Have they been less aggressive with their pursuit of justice? The point I'm trying to make is that Twitch would still be the predominant streaming platform if there wasn't so many people fed up with their fucking...
I mean, they're still technically the predominant streaming platform from what I understand.
Technically, but Kick is a big problem. We can agree on that, right? We're not going to pretend like we disagree on that.
Yeah, but it's not a problem that doesn't exist because Twitch has rules.
I see that directly. I mean, what's his name? Trainwrecks?
Bro, it's so funny where he's like, on the one hand, he literally is saying, I think you can reason with this guy. Maybe I'm crazy. I don't think he's coming across as like not the worst person ever. It's the worst time for me to say this. I think that you could like talk this dude down and explain to him why he's wrong, and maybe he'll be more understanding. I think he comes across a little bit misguided and not like unhinged. Or maybe I'm a idiot who always thinks that you can reason with anyone and everyone, which is why I try to reason with like gray names on their 7,000 sock account in here saying the same exact nonsensical bullshit. However, the point he's trying to make here is a ridiculous one. That's number one. The notion that like this dude here, let me take it all back for a second. He's advocating against deplatforming while simultaneously talking about the issues of replatforming. Do you understand? Like, it's not deplatforming that created Kick. You can't make that argument, especially when you ostensibly are not pro CP or pro the collection of child pornography like this one Kick streamer was doing, and therefore you would probably demand, understandably, to ban that person from Twitch as well.
The reason he's the founder of Kick, the reason he even started Kick was because he was banned off Twitch, and he saw that as a direct opportunity. You know, there's so many people that have been banned over realistically small stuff, not
okay.
Let me
finish. No, I'm stopping you because it's an awful point. It's an awful point, and people in the chat are cringing at what you're saying, bro. Listen,
I don't care what people think.
No, you should. This is a point where you listen.
But it was
listen. I'm stopping you before. I'm stopping you before. I'm stopping you before you harm yourself because
he's right. By the way, he's smart to stop him because this dude is making an argument that's unironically coming across really bad for him.
Yeah, I think self-harm is against TOS on Twitch. Listen, just because we know for a fact that the way that the economy on the internet works today and what's allowed and what's not allowed, just because we know for a fact the fact that we don't allow the purchase and sale of certain things in what you would call like, you know, a white market. You know, just because we don't
purchase and sale of what thing? Like child pornography? Is that what you're referring to?
That could be one thing, or black tar heroin, or slaves,
no,
or
that's not
legal
what I'm saying.
weaponry.
I'm not talking about directly.
Listen to me. You're not even listening to me finish my point. Just because we know the fact that we don't allow that in sort of like, you know, the regular markets on the internet, so on and so forth, and as a result of that, that pushes the sale and purchase of that stuff down into the dark web. Just because we know it creates a black market of sorts around that kind of stuff, around that kind of whatever you want to buy, whatever you want to purchase. Just because we know that exists doesn't mean that we should just start taking a softer approach with it in general society. Because, well, it's going to exist anyway down there in obscurity on the dark web. So we might as well just be like open to it generally because it's going to exist anyway. You're completely ignoring the fact that there is potentially a sliding scale of exposure that goes on between just rejecting it and making it illegal to an extent and just allowing it to flow unquestionably. Like
I'm talking about the marketplace of ideas, though. I'm not talking about like black tar heroin, or it's a completely different.
No. It's not just the marketplace of ideas, because you're talking about a guy who makes a name for himself on Twitch, effectively creating a CP subscription service on his Discord.
Who? The guy on Kick?
Yes, the guy on Kick who we talked about. There's a little documentary.
Specifically, he would be heinous anywhere.
But you specifically brought him up as an example. How are you not talking about?
Why did you bring him up then? That makes no sense. You're the one who brought him up because you thought it was a good point to bring about. You tried to make an argument that Twitch created him by having aggressive terms of service, because aggressive terms of service somehow created Kick, and then that guy found a place to do his shit at Kick. The real argument here should be Kick should also have aggressive terms of service, not that Twitch created the pedophile dude.
Him specifically.
I use them
as if your goal here is, if you have like a consistent moral through line in this debate, then you can't have a grudge against Twitch in this circumstance, which you, I assume, recognize is doing the right thing and banning the child pornography guy.
An example because of the ripple effects of Kick existing, of train wrecks transferring over to Kick, making Kick. That's the reason he was.
Kick existing is another point for replatforming. People that get deplatformed now have secondary markets where they are replatformed. So the problem should be not that those secondary, like this person's argument literally doesn't make sense. If you are consistent, then you shouldn't be advocating against deplatforming. You should be advocating against replatforming. You should be advocating for more deplatforming. You should be advocating for Kick to not exist then. Not that it's really fucked up that Twitch is banning too many people. That's so dumb. What are you saying? Bro's just mad that Destiny is bad. Yeah, 100%. It's got to be the reason why he's like bringing it up like this and is completely oblivious, much like many Destiny fans are, to the actual facts of the matter. Ironic because, you know, you're supposed to be this super brilliant debate lord guy here.
Here's the thing though, what you're not explaining and why what you're advocating for makes no sense is because ultimately what you're arguing here is because there are some rules which you've arbitrarily decided go too far. We need to have less rules and be more lenient, or else we might have a streaming platform at some point that's more obscure that gets made out of bitterness against Twitch.
Thank you, Melon Boy.
And there's people doing stuff on there that's even worse.
It's not just, it's symptomatic.
So what I'm asking you is how lenient do we need to be? How much do we need to just kind of like let go out of fear that somebody with a worse opinion or a worse type of content or a more abusive or a more destructive whatever is going to rise as a result of it? Like, do you not potentially see a future where just not having any boundaries around any of it actually ends up coming through with like the worst outcome here?
I'm not saying you're going
because again, to go back to Alex Jones, there was a point on the internet where it was the Wild West and we just kind of let people talk about and, you know, discuss whatever and make whatever accusations they wanted. And it resulted in the families of dead children being threatened multiple times and harassed mercilessly.
You're misinterpreting my point on purpose. You're misrepresenting.
No, I'm really not. Listen,
let me ask you a question. Am I saying that we shouldn't have any rules? Is that what I'm saying?
It is, because I don't know what you think the rules should be. You're not defining what the rules should be, because here's the thing. We could say hypothetically, you know, you brought up the guy who there was that documentary about who was collecting the pictures of teen girls, right? Let's say that guy, because he's mad he can't do that on Twitch, starts his own kick. Does that not then in your mind create an argument, well, maybe we should be more lenient about this stuff because he went off and created his own platform anyway? No, that doesn't make it okay. That doesn't mean that we should start having a softer approach with that shit.
The demand for a site such as that would be much lower if you were just to ban extremist people who are actually like extremely directly harmful to society, like Nick Fuentes, like Alex Jones, than if you were to like ban people like, I don't know, Ben Shapiro. Like
nobody's banning Ben Shapiro.
Okay, or
even trying to. I mean, as noxious as Ben Shapiro is,
Destiny.
But the thing is, like, the thing is, Destiny. In some of his worst moments, has advocated for and voiced very loudly some pretty heinous and violent shit.
Like what?
Oh, wow. It would be a really stupid idea to repeat it on my stream right now, which I don't want to get banned from. So I'm not going to walk into that rake, you moron. Like, okay. Like you can go and look it up on Twitter, on YouTube, on wherever, because I'm not going to come on stream here and repeat the stuff Destiny said that got him banned.
The way I understood it, it was on a much more moderate level than I'm like.
The way you understood it is wrong.
I've really seen words come out of this man's mouth that unquestionably advocated for the murder and death and killing of people who, for his own personal ideological reasons, he found to be disagreeable. And that's not good.
You kind of do the same thing, don't you?
No, what? I don't hop on stream and advocate for the death of others. No, I don't. Or else I would be in the same pool as Destiny right now.
Okay, but I mean, Destiny is a relatively moderate streamer. You wouldn't agree that he's politically like moderate, like relatively speaking.
I think he has his moments, but generally I don't really tend to classify people who, you know, advocate for systematic murder to be moderate. You know?
It's a ridiculous thing to say that about a person who has advocated to run over Black Lives Matter protesters because they're ruining the Democratic re-election chances. Like, when you add that to the tail end of that conversation, that doesn't change the reality even at all. That doesn't make it moderate. This is what happens when you are so perma-stuck online and don't comprehend that things like this, statements like that, come across unhinged to every single person that hears it, that is not directly in the immediate orbit of the content creator. Let's get back to this.
That's not
really.
Okay, that's not. You're missing. That's not. That's not true. Okay, the point being that if you ban people like that, moderates like that, there's going to be an.
But again, he's not moderate, and he went on stream and advocated for the killing of other people. That's not a moderate position.
I'm not sure about that.
Listen.
I've heard him talk. Hold on though.
No. I'm making a point.
Look how he's gotten more passionate defending Destiny than anything else so far. Typical Destiny dick rider, lives and breathes for one thing only: defending daddy. Okay.
Point here. You're conflating moderate. You're conflating moderate points of view with extremism. And I'm telling you that. Listen,
so it does.
Yes. It doesn't.
That's insane.
No, it's not, because here's my point. Here's my point, and you're not listening to it, and you're not putting two and two together. The reason he's an extremist, it's not because I think his political points are so far outside of the Overton window that they can't be considered. Let's say a moderate position on, give me the most moderate Destiny position that you can think of.
Moderate Destiny position? I mean, he has a lot of like.
What's a super moderate thing that you think he believes in?
I think super moderate and super cool. Like, I mean, he's against transphobia, I guess.
Okay, let's say you're against transphobia, right?
All right.
If your way of advocating against transphobia is gas chamber all the transphobes, that's not a moderate position, okay? Which would be an example of his opinions on the Black Lives Matter protesters who he was talking about on stream in that moment. He did not take a moderate position about not liking their presence there in the streets at that time. Okay. It was a very extremist position that advocated for their open murder.
Also, I mean, his like anti-transphobia extends only as far as like what he thinks is reasonable enough to claim that he is progressive. Anyone and everyone that has spent a significant amount of time talking about trans women in sports, anyone and everyone that has done that is being ridiculous. Either they are deliberately hyper focusing on this narrative while claiming they're doing it for some like intellectual honesty, when in fact all they want to do is be transphobic as far as it's permissible, right? Even in a liberal space, or they are very stupid and being duped by the dumbest right-wing people on the planet.
Murder. So okay. That's an example. There's literally video of it.
They should be murdered. That's what he said. These activists should be murdered.
He said they should be MOWED down, wantonly.
Down.
Yeah.
Okay, we should fact check that, but that's just.
Wait, what do you mean we should fact check that? Why are you defending a dude who's like work you're not even aware of? Is this the kind of attitude he brings to the albums that he's reviewing? Does this guy review albums? That's why he got banned, homie. The f do you mean? I can't play the clip for obvious reasons, but come on, dog. And I'm being as charitable as possible by explaining the context behind why he said it, which I think makes it laughable still. But if you're going to bring up how he got banned and how you're arguing for it, then why the f don't you? Yeah, they didn't even ban him on that one. I think they departnered him. It's ridiculous to me that you're talking about how he got deplatformed and saying he's moderate. And then like when Anthony Fantano brings up a thing that he certainly said, you go, oh, we should fact check that. Yeah, we should. You should. You should fact check it.
One of many examples where relatively moderate people, even moderately Republican people, got banned permanently, and not even necessarily for political points. It was like, I don't know, a nip slip or something like that. It was small things that eventually added up to there being a huge demand for this alternative platform.
Listen, I'm gonna hit a bit of a reset.
I don't know if you noticed, but like, I don't even think this dude is like, I think this dude's biggest problem is that he's kind of dumb. That's it. I don't think he's like a bad person in particular. He's making arguments that make him seem like a bad person, but I'm willing to bet that he's not a bad person, that he himself is simply maybe a little bit clout chasey, maybe a little bit of a genuine fan of Destiny and an orbiter or whatever. But I think that he's just more so misguided. I'm not kidding. I think that if someone sat him down, someone that he respects and trusts, sat him down and talked to him privately and not on camera, they could probably clear up a lot of his opinions. And the reason why I say that is because like, there's a difference between someone who says like, oh, well, Jordan Peterson is a respected author and a psychologist, right? Saying that specifically to defend Jordan Peterson is different than saying, well, Jordan Peterson's books actually helped me, and I think he might be a respected psychologist as well, but he's also transphobic. I think there's a difference there. Like, openly recognizing Jordan Peterson's flaws while simultaneously saying that he was helpful to him implies, in my opinion, that he is just simply misguided. Do you think Destiny or his fans offer this level of charitability towards you as you do to this dipshit? No, they don't, but that's not going to change my perspective. This is literally why I started broadcasting on Twitch to begin with. This is why I became friends with Destiny originally to begin with, because I thought that he was a perfect example of someone who had reformed, who had rehabilitated himself, who had actually sought within. I was wrong on Destiny's front, but that didn't stop me from, that didn't change my fundamental principle that anyone and everyone can reform, okay? No matter how far gone they are. It's not going to stop me from trying. Many people forget that. I've been saying this for a very, very long time. That's simply the same reason why I tried to help Aiden Ross early on. That's why I love iDubbbz, Ethan as well. People that have actually changed course, recognized their mistakes in the past, and now advocate against those sorts of things, I think are very valuable, because every single person has a reactionary perspective deep down inside on one issue. We are all totally susceptible to the intersectionality of privilege. Privilege causes us to have blind spots. Privilege causes us to have blind spots. We all do it. We all have it. We are all a product of our environment. We all grow up in, and leftists should understand this, we all grow up in an environment that is deep down white supremacist, racist, transphobic, misogynistic, and therefore, of course, our framework is going to be shaped by those external factors. This is the reason why I always preach tolerance and charitability and try to change people's attitudes and try to change people's minds. I have my own weak moments where I lose sight of that charitability, but I still try to maintain it as best as I can. And yeah, to be honest, if Hasan took the same route as these other uncharitable dickheads, this would be a seriously different community and most of us wouldn't be sitting in this chat. I think so too. You can find videos on exactly this same perspective, this same framework, this same motivation back from like 2018 when I first started on this platform as well, by the way. So I showed you a bunch of videos from back then where my consistency speaks for itself.